All right, you're going to get started very soon, guys. I'll just give it another minute or so to let everyone log in. It started very soon, everyone. All right, we might get started. So thanks very much, everyone, for logging in this afternoon. Today, we're going to talk a bit about healthy eating habits. Thought that was a good place to start. So thank you to everyone who participated in the survey. We will be going through that today. The survey was really just about getting you guys thinking about your own eating habits. And how you'd like to change things, what you feel you might need to change, and just so we can address some of the strategies around how to do that, okay? Because it can be a bit daunting when you're sort of looking at your diet and thinking that you do want to change it, you want to make some improvements, but you really don't know where to start, okay? And if you do know where to start, you're not quite sure how to get started, all right? So hopefully today, we'll cover some of those things. We are going to have some time for questions later in once I've finished. So please feel free when I finish the talk to log in some questions for me. Okie doke. So those of you who don't know me, my name's Jodie. I'm a sports dietitian. I work through Baymed Physiotherapy. So I practice in Wollongong, Woonona, Kiama and Nowra. Available those days for consultations and things like that. If any of you are wanting to talk to a health professional or a dietitian about your diet, if you need some help. Okay, so like I said to you just before, the survey, it was just sort of getting you to think about how healthy your diet is. What is a healthy diet? So what does that actually mean, okay? Do you want or need to change anything about your diet, and what and how you'd go about making these changes? Okay, so got some interesting results from the survey. Okay, so a lot of you rated your eating habits as very healthy. Some of you rated them as quite poor. A lot of you did want to change, regardless of how healthy your diet, you considered your diet to be. You still wanted to make some changes, which was another interesting finding. Some of you who didn't think their diet was overly healthy also didn't necessarily want to change it either. So we'll have a bit of a chat about why eating healthily is so important as well. So what is a healthy diet? Some of your responses from the survey. So I had a lot of people say eating fruit and veggies, drinking water, eating fresh foods, eating good portions from the 5 food groups, foods that are high in nutrients and energy, not eating too much and not eating too little. Balance, moderation and variety. Okay, so they're all excellent responses. Okay, so you know there's a lot of, a healthy diet doesn't just mean that you don't eat any fatty foods or that you only eat healthy stuff all the time. It also means having a healthy relationship with food and with your body. Okay. So I loved this response. So whoever wrote this response, it's fantastic. So a healthy diet, this is directly from the survey, a diet that will help you gain all the right nutrients and give you enough energy for whatever activities you do throughout the day. Okay, and that was written by one of your colleagues. So that's pretty impressive. All right. So just to get started on what a healthy diet actually is, I'm not going to go too much into the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating, because I'm sure the majority of you have covered this in your PE and health lessons. It's just a really good place to start, and it's really your foundation diet. So the majority of the foods that you choose should be coming from these 5 food groups. So we've got your grains, your cereals, breads, pasta, rice, couscous, quinoa, all of that sort of thing. We've got your vegetables and legumes, okay, so things like chickpeas are included in your vegetables group, baked beans, part of the veggies group as well, and obviously all your leafy greens and all of that sort of thing. You've got your fruit. Okay, you know what fruit is. You've got your milk or dairy and dairy alternatives. And then you've got your meat and your meat alternatives. Okay, so basically the majority of your food throughout the day should be coming from these groups. The little only sometimes and in small amounts are the foods and drinks that really they're just little extras, okay? They don't provide your body with anything nutritious really apart from energy, all right? So ideally you want to keep these sorts of things to a minimum, and they're called your discretionary foods, all right? There's stuff that your body doesn't actually need to function well. It's just that they're little extras, they're quite tasty, enjoyable every now and then. You can have those foods occasionally, all right? But if they're taking the place of other more nutritious foods, then that can become a problem. And if you have too much of these foods, then that can also be a problem, okay? So I just wanted to go through, just take you to where you can find the information about the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating. It's a really good place to start if you're wanting to learn a bit more about how much you should be having, what sorts of foods are included in each of the groups. Okay, so it's called Eat for Health, and you can find it on this link. So it's www.eatforhealth.gov.au. So if we just go to it now, so heaps and heaps of information on this website, and it can be a little bit daunting when you try to find what you're looking for. So I would say that to start with, I would go to your food essentials. So it'll take you what the 5 food groups are, how much we need. Okay, so I'm just going to click on that one. Okay, so it takes you through what a serve is and what a serve size, what are the serve sizes. So if we just click on what is a serve. So if we want to know vegetables, okay, so let's go to our veggies. So a serve is considered to be half a cup of cooked veggies, half a cup of beans or lentils and legumes, a cup of leafy greens. All of those things there are a serve of your veggies, okay? So if we want to know how much we actually need for our age group, if we go to recommended number of serves for children and adolescents, we then go down to, so here's our vegetables and legumes column. We go down to, say, if you're a boy between 14 to 18 years old, you need to have 5.5 serves, or it's recommended that you have 5.5 serves or veggies every day, okay? So I bet you, the majority of you, probably aren't making that or eating that much vegetables throughout the day, every day, okay? So remembering a serve is half a cup of cooked veggies, a full cup of salad or leafy greens, that type of thing, okay? A small or medium potato. So it's quite a lot, okay? And ideally, you probably should be trying to include some veggies in with more than just dinner, okay? So probably throughout the day, adding some salad to your sandwiches, or taking it in a little container so you can snack on it at recess, that sort of thing, to try to increase that veggie intake. So the other thing on this website that I just wanted to quickly show you before we move on, it's also got healthy recipes, okay? So if any of you are wanting to have a look for some recipes to suggest to mum and dad to give a go, heaps of recipes on here that, you know, good, healthy, nutritious, easy to make. Okay, so do yourselves a favour and have a bit of a look at this website when you get a chance. Okay. So the next thing we spoke about in the survey was we wanted to know how many of you skipped meals. Okay, so it was good to see that the majority of you didn't skip meals. Okay, a quarter of you did. Okay, and of that quarter, or of that 25% of you that skipped meals, the majority of you were skipping breakfast. Okay, that's very common. I see that a lot in the people that come to see me in my practice, that breakfast is one of the most common meals to skip. Okay, the thing that actually did surprise me is that 27% of you, of the people that skipped, you would skip lunch. Okay, that really surprised me. Okay, again, I have seen teens come in to see me and they do skip lunch, and a lot of that has to do, from what I've seen, sometimes it's just peer pressure. Your friends at school don't eat lunch, so you won't eat lunch either. Okay, so I just, I guess, wanting to emphasize that you guys are athletes. Okay, you guys are training harder than your sedentary friends. Okay, so your friends that don't participate in sports like you do, aren't as, you know, talented at their sport as you guys are, and don't put as much effort into their training and, you know, wanting to perform well in events. You know, you need to be sort of thinking about, this is what I need to do. I need to be eating well, and I can't be skipping my meals if I'm going to perform well, if I'm going to get the most out of my training, if I'm going to have enough energy to concentrate and keep all these things going. So do well at school, do your homework, get to training, okay, sleep well. A lot of the time, if you're going to bed hungry, you're not going to sleep that well either, okay? So the effects of skipping meals regularly: low energy levels throughout the day, poor concentration in class, you know, just fatigue, feeling like you can't keep your eyes open in class, which is not a great thing. You're missing out on important nutrients as well. So if you're skipping, say, breakfast every day, you're missing out on an opportunity to give your body some protein, some good healthy carbohydrates, okay, some calcium if you're having cereal. So you're giving your body also fuel to recover and to be able to perform well throughout the day. Okay, so you're also not going to be able to train or perform as well as what you could do if you're eating well and eating at regular intervals. All right, so you want to sort of impress your coaches, you want to go to training and you want to train hard and you want to adapt to that training. And the best way to go about that is to fuel your body well, so you've got the energy to burn, okay, and to utilize in that training session. You're also going to not recover so well following that training. So we will talk a bit about more the nutrients that are required for your recovery and things like that, probably in the next session. But basically, your body needs regular intakes of things like protein and carbohydrates for it to repair well, okay? So if you're skipping meals, again, you're sort of preventing your body from being able to recover well and your muscle to be able to adapt to your training. It also, I don't know if any of you have sort of found that if you do skip meals throughout the day, say if you skip lunch or, you know, breakfast, anything, you come home from school and you're absolutely starving, okay? And the thing that you do when you're absolutely starving is you go straight for the cupboard and just grab whatever is quick and easy. And oftentimes that is not something that is necessarily nutritious, okay? So you might go for the chips or the biscuits or whatever it is. You'll eat it really quickly. So that's when the binge eating can come into play, okay? So you just eat all these foods really quickly, and then you'll be satisfied for a short period of time, and then you think, actually, I'm still a bit hungry, okay? Because the types of foods that you've chosen are satisfying for a short time, but they also break down really quickly in your body. So you'll get a bit of a low after you've had those foods. After about half an hour of having the sorts of foods that give you energy really quickly, they also bring your energy levels down once you've kind of processed all of that sugar. Okay, so you'll find that if you go for those sorts of foods, you're going to be craving more of those sorts of foods again in, say, 20 minutes to half an hour. Okay, so that's when that binge sort of eating behaviour can happen. So that is usually as a result of skipping meals or eating poorly throughout the day. Okay, so as I've just sort of covered, it also can lead to overeating later in the day, okay, which is not ideal. So the other question we asked you was about avoiding food groups. So look, people avoid food groups for various reasons. You know, and a lot of these reasons are very valid, and, you know, by all means, if you avoid a food group, all I would suggest to you, if for whatever reason, if you're going to be avoiding it, you really need to speak to a dietitian, okay? Because the food groups are recommended because they offer specific nutrients. So each of the 5 food groups offer you specific nutrients that your body needs, okay? So if you're restricting an entire food group for whatever reason, then it's likely that you're going to struggle to meet some of your nutrient requirements without some help from someone that knows what they're talking about in terms of food, to be able to say, okay, well, if you're going to be missing out on meat, for example, your iron levels are going to be pretty low unless you eat lots of other foods that are high in iron, plant-based foods, and that can be tricky, okay? So people avoid food groups for ethical reasons, for cultural or religious reasons, because they're allergic or because they're intolerant. A lot of the time it's for weight loss, okay? Sometimes agendas such as, you know, being intolerant or being ethical, sometimes it can actually be hiding the real agenda, which is you wanting to lose weight. Okay, so often it will be a bit of a red flag. Say, for example, if someone, a young teenager, comes in to see me and they've decided they're going to become a vegan, that's fine, and I will help them do so. But it is a bit of a red flag to say, oh, okay, we've got to be careful here, because it can be that we're starting to go down a slippery slope of dieting and poor body image and that sort of thing. Lots of people skip food groups because they just simply don't like it, okay? I did notice that there were a few of you that don't eat vegetables. I'm assuming that's probably because you just don't like them. Okay, we're going to talk about that, but all I can say is with veggies, they're really important. They're absolutely essential for a healthy diet, okay? So if you don't like them, I guess just suck it up a little bit and just say, okay, they're doing my body good, I need to have them. And whether it is you just say, all right, I'm going to get rid of my veggies first. So if they're on your plate, just say, all right, I'll just eat my veggies and then I'll have my meat and my pasta, or whatever it is that you enjoy the most. I'm not saying you have to go out and eat 2 cups of veggies tonight, but just consider, if you're not a vegetable eater, that's definitely something that I would say you need to work on, okay? And whether it be that you say, okay, well, I'm going to have, I'll have some carrot tonight, or I'll have whatever veggie you're willing to give it a go, okay? Have a small amount on 3 days a week or something like that, okay? So from the survey results again, the people that did avoid food groups, dairy was one of the most common ones, then followed by vegetables, then meat, okay, and a couple of you avoided fruit and grains, okay. So I guess, like I was saying before, with the risks of avoiding entire food groups, you're going to be likely to be missing out on some vital nutrients. So if you do avoid dairy, you're going to be missing out on a good source of, like the best source of calcium, okay, a good source of protein, a good source of vitamin B12, okay. So calcium, I'm sure you all know how important calcium is for young people especially, okay. So now is the time where you guys are going to be depositing minerals onto your bones to strengthen them for later in life. And as athletes, you're even more susceptible to, you know, having low bone density, all right? So it's really important that you get a good amount of calcium in, and the easiest way to get it in is through dairy. So if you are intolerant to dairy, say majority of the time it's because you're intolerant to lactose, which is really high in milk and slightly higher in yogurt as well. There are always alternatives. So there's lactose-free milk. If you just have a dairy allergy, so a cow's milk protein allergy, then yes, you are going to have to avoid all of those foods completely. But what you were going to need to do is replace that with an alternative that has been fortified with calcium, or that is a good source of calcium. So soy milk, for example, is a good replacement. It's not as good as dairy, but it's the best one. That's the alternative. If you're going for things like your almond milk, your coconut milk, that sort of thing, they're not good sources naturally, okay? So you need to look for one of those milks that has been fortified with calcium. But again, if you're going to be avoiding dairy, if you're going to be avoiding meat, I would say please come and see a dietitian, okay? And just make sure that you are getting enough of what you need to keep yourself healthy for later in life. So meat, obviously, you don't have to eat meat to get protein. Definitely not, all right? But meat it's got the highest concentration of protein out of anything, basically, anything else in the food group. So even your lentils, legumes, tofu, your meat alternatives, they are a good source of protein, but not as good as meat. Okay, I'm not saying you have to go out and eat meat if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, but again, if you're going to avoid it, you need to be making sure you're getting the right amount of protein for you through meat alternatives, okay? Veggies, they offer lots and lots of benefits, okay? Dietary fibre, antioxidants, vitamins and minerals, so many benefits of eating vegetables. If you don't eat them, I suggest that that should be a goal that you should set for yourself is, okay, I need to increase my veggie intake. How am I going to go about that? All right. Fruit and grains. If you're avoiding fruit and grains, they are both excellent sources of carbohydrate. Fruit is a really quick, easy, healthy go-to that you can just grab and go, okay? It's also high in nutrients, high in fibre, so really try not to exclude fruits. You can definitely overdo it, but try not to exclude it completely from your diet. And grains, if you're avoiding these, then you're cutting out a really big carbohydrate source from your diet that you'll need to make up somewhere else as an athlete, okay? So again, see a dietitian about that, all right? Also wanted to get you to think about whether you've dieted in the past, okay? So majority of you hadn't, which is good, all right? 13% of you had been on a diet, okay? And the majority of the people that had been on a diet did it on their own, okay? So they didn't come and see a dietitian about it. And this is really quite a dangerous thing to start doing, especially so young, okay? Because what that will do, or what it can do, is it can set you up for a lifetime of continuous dieting, going on and off these dieting fads, okay? Losing weight, putting weight back on, poor body image, all of that sort of thing. So if you can just have a little bit of a look at this graphic. So it really is a vicious cycle, okay? What happens, majority of people who go on a diet are dieting to lose weight or change their body composition or their physique for whatever reason, okay? So they go on a diet, they reduce their calories, okay? Usually they'll, obviously they're not getting enough of what their body needs. So you guys as athletes, you're not going to perform well you're not going to be able to train well. You'll notice that your performance will suffer, okay? You're also not going to do as well in school because your concentration levels will be poor, okay? So it disrupts hormones and all that sort of thing, okay? So what happens, we diet, we lower our calories. Then what our body does is it thinks we're in a famine, okay? So it starts to store fat, all right? Because it thinks, oh gosh, I'm not going to get fed for a while and I need to have some reserves to keep me alive. All right, so we lose weight, but what happens is often we lose muscle with that as well. And when we lose muscle, our metabolic rate decreases, okay? And when our metabolic rate decreases, that means when we do start eating again, we're going to regain that weight quite quickly. And oftentimes you'll regain more than what you lost. And then it starts the vicious cycle over again, all right? So really, we just want to be avoiding dieting. Sure, look to improve your diet, look to eat to fuel your body, but please try to avoid dieting, especially without consulting a health professional or a dietitian, okay? So the effects of dieting, if done the wrong way, okay, it affects your hormone levels, it'll affect your bone density. immunity will be decreased. You lose muscle, okay, which is definitely not ideal for athletes. You can lose hair, okay. Your inability to adapt to your training appropriately can also trigger an eating disorder. So the highest risk factor for developing an eating disorder is dieting, okay. So it can also trigger lifelong unhealthy relationship with your body and food. All right. So please, if you're considering or if you're wanting to change your physique or you're worried about your weight, go and speak to a dietitian. Okay. I know I've been saying that a lot today, but I can't emphasize the importance of doing that if that's what you're looking at doing. Okay. Okay, so some of the reasons that you guys gave for why you consider your diets to be poor, or that you have poor eating habits, were that the unhealthy food is too delicious. Absolutely, I agree, some of the unhealthy food is delicious. And like I said before, we don't need to cut out unhealthy foods completely, okay? We just need to say, okay, well, this is a sometimes food. This is a treat, all right? So, you know, if you have a small amount of chocolate, say, if you can stick to a couple of pieces of chocolate every day, it's okay if you just have a small amount. But if you find that you're eating, you can't stop yourself at just 1 or 2 squares and you're eating half a block or a full block of chocolate every night, then that can be a bit of a problem, all right? So if that chocolate or if that unhealthy food is replacing the more nutritious foods, say instead of having, you know, a salad sandwich with ham or tuna or something like that for lunch, you're going for hot chips, or you're going to go and have a chocolate bar instead of having a healthy lunch, again, that's a problem, okay, if it happens regularly. Okay, time poor, so yep, get that. So that's some of the reasons why people don't eat well, because they don't have enough time to prepare. Don't know what to change, and that's what hopefully we'll be sort of learning throughout all of these sessions that we're doing over the next few weeks, what sort of things you might need to focus on. And I'm sure if you sat down and thought about it yourselves, you probably know what sort of things you might need to look at improving. You don't have any control over what food is in the house. Okay, I get that. I know that your parents buy the majority of the food. Perhaps talk to your parents, get them to watch some of these webinars with you if you want to, and just let them know how important it is to you to eat well, okay? Always hungry or not hungry. Sometimes when you're always hungry, it's because you're not eating nutritious foods, okay? It can be that you're not including enough protein throughout the day. So you're constantly just eating carbs and carbs and carbs, okay? And that's not filling. You'll be satisfied for a short period of time if that's all you're having. If you're not including enough protein, then yeah, you're likely to be hungry all the time, okay? Not hungry is another reason. So a lot of people that skip breakfast, it's because they're just not hungry at that time of day. Look, I would suggest that if that's the case, try having like a liquid meal, a smoothie or something like that for breakfast, or even a piece of fruit or a tub of yogurt, just something small, okay, just to sort of get your body going for the day. And also convenience. So convenience is another reason why people have poor eating habits. It's easy sometimes just to stop at McDonald's on the way home from training. Okay, I understand that too. So what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do to address these reasons, I guess, for why you're not eating well? Okay, so first thing, and this came from you guys as well. So one of the survey responses was get involved. All right, so talk to mum and dad, okay, about this is what you want to do, okay? This is really important to me. It's important to my sport, okay? It's important for my health, all right? So help with the meal prep. When you get home from school, maybe chop up some veggies for mum and dad. So all they've got to do is chuck them in the pan, or, you know, that sort of thing, okay? Do your own lunches. So set aside some time later in the night or afternoon when you get home from school. If you're, getting yourself a snack, start getting yourself stuff ready for your lunch tomorrow. Pack your lunchbox so it's ready to go. Your parents will really appreciate that, I'm sure. Okay, those of you that enjoy cooking or feel capable in the kitchen, why not volunteer to cook dinner for the family 1 or 2 times a week? Look up a recipe on the Eat for Health website and ask mum and dad, I need these ingredients. I'm going to cook you dinner tomorrow night. Okay, prepare, as I said, prepare lunches for yourselves, look up recipes and make some suggestions. Your parents would love, I'm sure the majority of parents would love for you to be involved in that sort of thing. Okay, it's helpful to parents. Set yourself some goals. So one of the things I'm going to ask you to do after this talk or over the week is to think about your diet, like you have been doing before you've sort of logged in here, and think about what it is that you might want to change. Okay, you don't have to change everything at once. You don't have to say, you know, I'm going to have a perfect diet all the time. That's not realistic. Okay, you might say, okay, well, veggies is my main thing, or I don't eat breakfast, so I'm going to have breakfast 3 days a week. All right, just have a think about it and what it might be that you want to focus on first. And often it's easiest, or it's best to try to focus on something that you think will be pretty easy for yourself to implement. If you start on the too hard, like on, you know, going to eat 2 cups of veggies every day, you're just going to forget about that goal. So set yourself something small, something achievable, all right? And then start from there. Often what will happen, or pretty much all the time what will happen, is it has a snowball effect for the rest of the changes that you want to make. If you're succeeding one change, then you're going to be likely to implement more changes. So yeah, I think I've said this enough. If you need advice on how to change, talk to a dietitian. So make sure when you are setting a goal for yourself, and I think that if you haven't already, then you are going to be having a talk about setting goals, or you might have done it at school. So they need to be SMART goals. So they need to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. So it's no good setting a goal of, I'm going to eat healthy. Okay, because that's not specific. It's not measurable. How do you measure that? Okay, you might say, so some examples of some nutrition goals is, I'm going to include a leafy green vegetable with my dinner 3 nights this week. Okay, that's something that's measurable. Okay, it's timely. All right, so this week, this is what I'm going to do. Or you might say, I'm going to eat a healthy breakfast 4 days this week. Okay, so like I said, try setting yourself a nutrition goal this week, okay? And just, I'm sorry. Yeah, have a go at doing that. And that is pretty much it for my talk. So I'm going to open it up to you guys now if you have any questions for me today, type it in and I'll look at. Okay, so we've got one here. If I happen to skip a meal due to convenience or time, are there alternatives for meals like vitamins or something like a tablet that can actually replace a meal? No. If I accidentally skip it, short answer is no. Okay, so vitamins and minerals, yep, they're good they're not essential. Again, I would talk to a dietitian before you look at including any specific vitamins and minerals. But vitamin and mineral supplement is not going to replace a balanced meal, okay? It's not going to provide you with any macronutrients. So it's not going to provide your body with carbohydrate and protein, okay, and energy, all right? So it's just giving you vitamins and minerals. So unfortunately, no, there's not really. If you're thinking that you're going to skip a meal because of time, again, I would just say grab a piece of fruit, prepare ahead of time. Okay, so I have to get out of the house by 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'm not going to have time to eat. I'll pack myself a yogurt or I'll pack myself a piece of fruit. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so I've got, sometimes my training is late in the evening, and while I may be hungry before training, I find that after training I'm not hungry. Is it important to still eat something? Yes, it is. So you should have something within about half an hour after you finish training. It doesn't have to be something big. If it's late at night, what I would suggest is that potentially you look at having your dinner. If it's a late training session, have your dinner for, early, so 3, 4 o'clock even, and then come home and have something like a smoothie or a yogurt and some fruit. Okay, so you're wanting to have a bit of protein and a bit of carbohydrate to help your muscle recover. Okay. All right, any other questions? No. If you do have any questions that you didn't ask, here we go. How much water should I consume during a normal school or training day? That'll depend. It'll depend how hot it is, how much you sweat, all of that sort of thing. But ideally, the recommended amount of water that you have is between 35 to 45 mils per kilogram of body weight. So if you weigh yourself, times that by 35 mils, and that will give you the recommended amount. But I would be trying to aim for at least 1.5 litres a day, all right? Again, that might change on hot days when you're sweating a lot, okay? One of the things that we'll talk about actually later on in the next couple of weeks is hydration, okay? But one of the ways to see how well hydrated you are and if you actually need to be drinking more is the colour of your urine. So if it is really dark, then that's a sign that you're dehydrated. So it should be quite clear, pale yellow, all right? So that's a good indicator that you're getting enough fluid, okay? I've got a question. How often should I eat sometimes foods? Okay, so there are no recommendations around how often you should eat those foods. They are, like I said earlier in the talk, if you have a small amount of, say you have a tiny square of chocolate every night, that's okay to do that, okay? But if you're finding that you're eating a whole block every day or a whole chocolate bar every day, then that can become a problem, okay? If you're sort of watching your weight and wanting to look after your health. So sometimes foods, your body does not need them, okay? They're just a treat, okay? You can enjoy them every now and then, but they shouldn't be part of, you know, every single day of the week and a large quantity of them. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening in today. If you do happen to have any questions, or if there's something that you really want addressed in these talks over the next few weeks, please feel free to email and let us know what you'd like to talk about. Okay, I've got another question here. I've got another couple of questions actually. Is maintaining a balanced diet better than the myth of carbo loading? Okay, I wouldn't say carbo loading is necessarily a myth, but yes, I would say that maintaining a balanced diet is better than carbo loading. That's just a strategy to use before a specific event. So usually before an endurance event. So if you were competing in a marathon, or if you were competing in you know, an Ironman, or, you know, a long distance event that goes for a few hours, then carb loading the couple of days beforehand is a strategy to make sure that your muscle has enough energy to use throughout that event, okay? But yeah, I would say the majority of you, for the events that you're doing and the time that you're doing them for, you don't need to carb load, okay? So yes, I would say for you that maintaining a healthy, balanced diet is more important than carb loading. How many meals should contain veggies? That's completely up to you. However you want to go about trying to get towards that 5 to 5.5 serves of veggies a day. So you can include them at breakfast, you can include them at recess, you can include them at lunch. It's whatever, however you can go about increasing the amount that you're having throughout the day. For example, if you have an omelette for breakfast, why not chuck in some spinach and mushrooms, you know, take some carrot sticks and cherry tomatoes in with your recess, add some salad onto your sandwich, and then have some veggies at dinner, okay? Okay, any other questions? Okay, looks like it for the time being. Thank you again for your time, guys. Really appreciate it. Have a great week, and I'll see you again next week. Okay, bye.